One of my earlier videos was quite popular, how to kill your car or how not to kill your car. 10 things that drivers do all the time that will destroy their car eventually. But a lot of comments on that video pointed out the fact that I was talking about manual transmission. And in the UK, that certainly at the time was a very big thing and probably still is. But around the world, a lot more drivers are switching to automatic cars. And in fact, the automatic transmission has become the norm. And yes, I will be including the robot transmissions, the dynamic shift gearboxes or the dual clutch transmissions within this bracket of automatic transmissions. And I thought it was just time to redo that video to look at 10 things that can harm our modern car, particularly one that has an automatic transmission. Firstly, and I'll let you debate in the comments how significant this is, using the wrong grade of fuel. Now, straight away, we're thinking about octane, obviously. And if your car has been designed for high octane fuel and you use a lower octane, a lot of adjustment is going on inside the engine to allow it to burn that lower octane fuel. It's trying to avoid NOx, and that can actually lead to carbon buildup inside the engine. It can lead to rough running, and it reduces the overall power and efficiency of the engine when you do that. But expanding this topic a little bit, we've got to think about the modern fuel formulations. We have E10, many countries also have E15. That is up to 15% or 10% of the fuel is allowed to contain ethanol. Now, a lot of older engines are not very tolerant of ethanol. It degrades the rubber seals and other components inside the engine, inside the fuel system. If our car's not been designed specifically for these E-enriched fuels, we need to ensure that we use a fuel that has a good reputation for having a low ethanol content. And there does seem to be quite a big variation between the big manufacturers. And that topic really expands into a very complex topic because different areas, different regions, different brands do different things. But generally speaking, here in the UK, for example, if you buy the higher octane fuel, it generally has a much lower ethanol content. E5 is the maximum permitted. So 5% of your high octane fuel is ethanol. And putting a higher octane fuel in an engine that was designed to run on a lower octane fuel doesn't do anything. It doesn't damage the engine. It doesn't improve power or improve efficiency. Another thing we have to think about as well is the additive package within the fuel. A lot of people will just look at the tankers coming out of the fuel depot and say they're all getting the fuel from the same place, but they are missing the critical step where the additive package is pumped in to the fuel tanker as it fills up and leaves the refinery. Those additive packages do seem to vary quite substantially, and a lot of the premium expensive brands have better detergents and better cleaning properties and will prolong the life of your engine. Fuel quality on some of the cheaper fuels or some of the out-of-town suppliers that don't shift very much fuel has led to problems with poor running and O2 sensors in the engine becoming coked up because of contaminants that the fuel has picked up. Next, we need to think about the transmission fluid. Some manufacturers are saying that a transmission is sealed for life, even in automatic. And I would be very skeptical about that. Some of these transmission temperatures get up to 80 or 90 degrees. They run quite hot. And when you have a fluid that is hot, it degrades. Once it is oxidized, it loses its hydraulic stability and is unable to lubricate as effectively. Fluid contamination is fairly substantial in most models at about 50 to 100,000 miles. And many manufacturers insist that the performance cars are changed at about 40,000 miles. But certainly you should be thinking about changing your transmission fluid at 60 to 80,000 miles. Let me know what your thoughts are on how often you should change the transmission fluid. And I guess it does depend on how we're using the car. If we're towing, if we do a lot of hill work, if the transmission is doing a lot of work, there's a lot of gear changes, a lot of high performance or high RPM gear changes particularly, they can all add to the degradation of the fluid. Another naughty one, and I do see people doing this quite a lot, and that's shifting between reverse and drive while the car is still moving. That puts a big strain on the components within the automatic transmission, the planetary gear sets, the clutch systems, but it is still inadvisable on any automatic transmission to just switch it from forward into reverse without the car becoming stationary in between. In heavy traffic, we might want to go slowly and we might be holding the car on the hill, for example, using the throttle rather than bringing the car to a complete stop and engaging the parking brake, the handbrake, whatever we want to call it, there's a tendency to just keep the car balanced on the throttle. And that, if we have a dual clutch transmission, is going to be burning away the clutches inside the transmission. If your modern transmission has a hill hold assist, use it. It's there for a purpose. Another thing that automatic drivers often do, and that's to ride the brake downhill. Rather than manually shift into a lower gear, if you have a modern transmission, it's probably going to detect that you are on a declining slope and adjust the gear and choose a lower gear for you. But on many, it doesn't. And just be aware of that. Rather than just ride the brake, which causes excessive heat to build up in the brakes, eventually leading to catastrophic brake failure or brake fade when you need it the most, it's much better to just drop the gear down, to choose a manual gear, or just select automatic mode, where it tends to hang on to gears a little longer and you can enjoy a little bit more engine braking, which should arrest the acceleration you would get on that slope. We've done lots of videos on this: cold starts, or flooring the engine before it warms up. I'll let you debate in the topic as to how important that is for your specific engine, because a lot of you are going to have a completely different experience from others, and it's just important that we share our experiences of this. But a cold engine is not working efficiently. Extra wear and tear is going on in the engine while it is cold, and we accelerate that wear and tear by using the throttle. To use high RPM in this state where the engine is most stressed, most likely to be experiencing wear and tear, is foolish. It's going to reduce the overall lifespan of the engine. Now, if you have a particularly reliable engine, you're probably only going to knock 20 or 30,000 miles off the life, and you probably won't be keeping the car anywhere near that long anyway. So by the time that you go to sell the car, the next owner is going to have the bills to pay to repair the damage that has accumulated through your abuse in cold starting it. Letting the car idle to warm up, I won't go into too much detail here because that's really topics covered in other videos, but using idle is not an efficient way to warm up the engine. You'll use a lot more fuel. The engine will generally be a lot colder than if you just got in and drove it, or you applied a little bit of load while you were sitting there. And in most situations, it's best to just get in the car and drive it slowly, or if you're in a very cold area, get in the car, start it, and apply a light throttle. Just make sure there is a little bit of load in there, that we're not using idle to warm up the engine. This is a very good way of degrading the oil. You cause oil dilution, and condensation builds up inside the engine. Again, that ends up in the oil, degrading the ability of the oil to lubricate the engine. Skipping oil changes, no, you're not saving money by stretching your 12-month service out to 14 or 16 months. You're increasing the wear and tear on all of the components in the engine. The oil really is one of the most critical components, and I would recommend that rather than even follow the manufacturer recommendations, we change the oil more frequently. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on that and how often you change the oil. As oil ages and collects contaminants, it degrades. It reduces its ability to lubricate the engine, and that can damage particularly sensitive components in the engine. The turbocharger is spinning at very high RPM. You've got the entire valve train in the top of the engine that really does need proper good quality lubrication, and the additive protection that you get in the modern formulations of oils will also be degraded when the oil starts to get old and collect all of these other contaminants. Lugging the engine, this is where we use the throttle in quite hard measures, and the RPM is particularly low. You might tend to do this perhaps when you hit a hill. Now, an automatic should theoretically choose a lower gear and increase the RPM so you're not lugging it. But in many automatics, manufacturers have chosen a selection point that guarantees lower emissions and better fuel economy. This lugging using full throttle or high throttle at low RPM speeds is causing excessive wear and tear on the engine. The cylinder pressures are much higher under those conditions. You may even start to hear the engine struggling to make the power that you need to get up the hill. Now, if you've got an automatic, you can't do anything about it. Well, you can. In most, you can select a manual gear and just drop down a gear. You could use the kick down function, for example, in some engines, and that will choose a lower gear and will get you up the hill, or just dropping it into sport mode. We find in most cars, sport mode gives you good fuel economy as long as you're gentle with the throttle, but also avoids this problem of lugging at low RPM. And a lot of drivers just don't ever use sport mode. They only ever use the drive mode in their automatic gearbox. Let me know what your thoughts are on that, and whether you use sport mode all the time or whether you switch to it to say, avoid lugging or just when you want to overtake someone. Another big killer, and I would say this is probably one of the most significant things that degrades the performance of our engine long term, and that's short trips where the engine hasn't got up to operating temperature and it hasn't had an opportunity to cool down to normal operating temperature after spirited driving. We're thinking about the heat cycle, allowing the heat to build up in the engine and to reduce down again. And just doing a short trip, we're putting our engine under a lot more risk, a lot more stress. The oil, as we've already said, is starting to degrade with these short trips. The carbon buildup is going to be much higher doing lots of short trips. Most cars now come with particulate filters. These are going to start to clog up more. On a short trip, you are putting more soot inside the particulate filter than it will ever get to clear off. And eventually you're going to have a completely blocked particulate filter. Catalytic converters also need high temperatures. And this bit where we start the engine to do a short trip will dump a lot more fuel into the exhaust stream, which will go into the catalyst, which will degrade the catalyst. Now, you could argue that is only for a very, very small period of time, but it is cumulative. The more short trips we do, we're never going to burn off all of the moisture that's dropped itself into the engine oil. It's not going to be properly lubricated, and we're just going to be building up a whole host of problems for ourselves. I'm just scraping the surface of short trips in this video, and please explore the other videos that I've done on the topic if you want to learn more about short trips and what is so damaging about doing a short trip in your car. It's important to note that that is not the only 10 things that are going to damage an engine. It could be an infinite list. And actually, when you put a video up on YouTube about 10 things that cause this damage, someone's going to put a video up that says 11 things that cause damage. And then someone's going to do one that says 12 things that cause damage. There are lots of things that I could have included here, but chose not to put that in the original 10. But we just run through a list of other things we should be aware of. And these aren't just things that affect cars with automatic transmissions. They will affect most different types of engines. First up, ignoring warning lights and error codes. If we've downloaded the OBD2 port and found there's error codes and we just choose to ignore that, we could be storing up a big problem for ourselves in the future, or an expensive repair bill, because these often escalate into much bigger problems. We've spoken about the dangers of short trips and doing short journeys and how this causes excessive soot to build up, and letting the EGR valve, the exhaust gas recirculation system, to block up with soot is going to cause problems with the engine. With the soot build up, it's not going to be able to do its thing, and the NOx emissions are going to be much higher. It's going to end up with very rough running engine and give you very poor fuel economy. We've done a video on symptoms to look out for that would indicate your EGR valve is becoming blocked or clogged up. We've also got to mention allowing the DPF, the diesel particulate filter, or the Otto particulate filter, or petrol particulate filter, whatever you want to call it. These particulate filters trap soot. If they keep clogging up, there is a problem there that needs to be investigated, and it's usually something to do with the fuel injectors or the way the engine is burning fuel, but ignoring that will result in a hefty bill. Running the fuel tank too low. The fuel in the tank actually cools and lubricates the fuel pump to a certain extent, and running on empty increases the heat in the pump. You can be sucking air in certain conditions from these pumps. For example, if you were doing some heavy cornering in some models, it has been known to cause the fuel to just flow away from the pickup. Those bubbles of air in the fuel lines can cause the engine to stall or to splutter, and you'll be losing power. And also you run the risk of picking up particles from the bottom of the tank. And indeed, if the tank is mainly empty, there's a lot of scope there for moisture to build up on the inside of the tank. Next up, using cheap or incorrect engine oil. We're not just talking about the viscosity. The SAE rating is only a guide. The key thing is the additive package. If your car has a timing chain, a turbocharger, if it's got a special coating inside the engine, if it has a particulate filter, you cannot use engine oils that contain certain additives and products. Zinc, for example, was often added to protect engines, but that becomes a big problem when you've got a lot of these modern things fitted to your engine. The air filter is critical as well. If your engine can't suck in clean air, it's going to cause poor running and can lead to other problems building up, where the engine is perhaps becoming more smoky or emitting more soot. Topping up the engine oil is good, but we can overdo it. If we overfill the engine oil, and I am talking about substantially overfilling it, that can cause excessive pressure. The crank can be churning through the oil in the bottom of the engine, creating foam. The foamy oil loses its ability to lubricate the engine. We've got to be on the watch as well for poor quality fuel. Now, we're not talking about high octane and low octane. We're talking about fuel that's maybe been sat around in the tank for months, or maybe it's a filling station that is out of the way and doesn't get used very often, and they've had the fuel sitting around a long time. In some regions, fuel is not as carefully regulated, and you can buy fairly poor quality fuel, and that's going to affect the injectors. It's going to disrupt the spray pattern. The combustion efficiency is going to be down. It's also tempting to try and drive the engine if it is misfiring. It might feel like a slight hesitation or a vibration, but actually each misfire is sending unburnt fuel into the exhaust system that can cause damage in the catalytic converter, raising temperatures. It can cause all sorts of other problems in the engine, if potentially damaging pistons, valves and other components within the exhaust side of the engine if we're not careful. Keep an eye on the cooling system. If that temperature gauge is showing an abnormally high temperature, stop the engine, investigate the cause of the problems. Corrosion can build up inside the radiator, inside the cooling system. The water pump can start to fail over time. The plastic impelled versions that are often used by modern manufacturers are very prone to breaking. The thermostats themselves can actually stick, but overheating can warp cylinder heads. It can destroy the head gasket and internal seals and cause a lot of problems. And that's something that we can be aware of, but we've just chosen to ignore it. There's probably another 30 or 40 things that you can think of that would damage an engine, so please let me know in the comments what they are. If you found this video useful, please boot the like button. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Have I missed anything off? I've tried to do the 10 biggest things that will affect the long-term reliability of your automatic car, not just focusing on the gearbox, but focusing on the engine and general upkeep of the car. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. That helps us to get out there as well. And I've lined up this video and this playlist that you should find really interesting. So see you in these next videos. Thanks for watching.